And we're back. What's up, gang? Uh, it's a cold for LA morning, a whopping 43 degrees here, which for LA is pretty much as cold as we're gonna get. And uh, and this week has been a handful, but I didn't want to go another week without a video. I shouldn't say another week. There's a potential that next week there may not be a video. I'll get into that in a minute. Um, but yeah, you know, you got to please the YouTube gods, and we always like to keep them in our favor. So here we are with a live stream, which is good because it's something that I've wanted to do for a while. I had thought about doing one right after Halloween because I wanted to kind of talk about how Halloween was and kind of give an update about the auction, getting rid of all of our props and all that kind of stuff. And now seems like just as good a time as any to do the same. So we'll give it a minute or two and let people hop into the chat, and then we can get going. If you are watching, pop into the chat. Tell me where you're watching from. Oh, Tony from Docking Bay 327 is here. My good friend Tony, who I'm very much looking forward to seeing this week. And I will get into that in a minute. It's not time for Nerd Summer Camp yet, although there's no bad time for Nerd Summer Camp. It doesn't have to be the summer. Oh, Canada is representing strong today. Nice. Good to see everybody. Nice spread all across the country. When I started making videos, it was the beginning of the pandemic, and my monthly Haunter get together meetings were canceled for obvious reasons. And I started making videos thinking that literally the only people that would be watching them would be people that I knew. So to see so many different names pop up in chat and from all across the country and across the globe, that is always it's wild. Okay. Excuse me. So I guess we can start at the beginning and go back to October and talk about our final haunt season here in Los Angeles before our move, which I have to say, I mean, bittersweet, clearly. It's a haunt that we've done for 15 years, and almost every piece of the haunt is something that we made by hand. I think the only things that we use in our haunt that we didn't actually make are like speakers, audio equipment, um, and some of the lighting. But outside of that, everything has been made by us. So to sort of pull all that stuff out of storage before Halloween, photograph everything for the auction, and kind of just like catalog all of 15 years of work was really interesting because it kind of forces you to sort of think back about when you made the thing and kind of what was going on and what you were attempting to accomplish in its creation. Um, but it also was like a really great reminder of how, if you stick to doing the things that you enjoy, you see progression in those things. And so there's this year we decided that we would put out every tombstone that I had ever made. And there's some that I have that we've kept that kind of, were like from the beginning. they weren't my best work, and the scale might have been wrong, and a million other different things. And I thought, for the final year, might as well just put everything out and just see what it looks like. And I kind of kicked myself for not doing that sooner, because I think having the yard be a bit fuller actually worked out really well. And I think moving forward is something that I will keep in the back of my mind, um, when I start to think about, how many tombstones, how many prop pieces would I need to make a yard haunt feel substantial. Um, and of course, any person that I spoke to during haunt season probably heard this conversation, and so now you all get to hear it as well. But essentially, when you do the same theme for an extended period of time, you tend to just build on that theme, and oftentimes that includes whatever technology that you use to make all that stuff happen. And so for us, one of the very first videos I think I posted to YouTube, and this is long before 2020 when I like really started doing weekly videos, was about my RCA jack plug and play lighting setup. And 15 years ago, when we had, a handful of tombstones, doing that setup made a lot of sense. It was not as complicated as it is now, or was, in October, because when you add more tombstones, you add more of everything. You have to increase the number of wires, of connectors, and all of that sort of stuff. And so setting up this year felt like trying to, like, untangle cooked spaghetti. Like everything just felt very clunky and unruly. But it also made me realize that the the things that I made 15 years ago were a result of decisions for that haunt, and those things never really changed. But now that there's a haunt to start in the future, it gives me a lot of perspective about how I would do things differently. And I know wiring has always kind of been something that I struggle with, because it seems like it should be a very linear thing, and eventually you're like, "Oh, but also this thing should go here, and this pumpkin should have light, and this and that," and then it becomes a rat's nest. So, this year's setup was, like, a little bit different, but it also was a really good reminder of the things that I wanna change for the future, and I was cognizant enough of that as we were setting up and tearing down, that, um that I just started making a note on my phone about things that I would change. Not so much things that I wanna make for the future, although there is that list as well, um, but more of like a, "Don't ever do this again." Like, future you will thank you for having the thought to write this down now. So so that's it was good in that way. Always nice to see people come out, before Halloween to check out the haunt, particularly for one last time. Oftentimes October is the only time that I get to see some of these people. And over the years, you have people that will swing by, and you recognize them. You may know them by first name only, um, but they become, friends of the haunt, let's say. And getting to see those people and to find out what they are into, what stuff they may have seen, because for us, once our haunt is set up, I tend to just like to stay home so that I can have these interactions with people. But it's a great way to sort of like get the pulse of what's going on in the area, what haunts you should go see if you're able to get away. Um, but it is a nice way to sort of reconnect with people in the haunt community uh, one last time, because I don't necessarily know that there will be another event where I would run into these people. So that's always fun. And then Halloween night, much to our surprise, was busy. The last handful of years, it's been pretty low attended for our neighborhood, or at least for our street. Um, I think we're one of maybe 3 houses on this block of, I don't know, 20 or so houses maybe, that even keeps a porch light on Halloween night. And so we don't really get the foot traffic. If for anything, our block is where people will park their cars to go walk down the block to another neighborhood where there's a lot more light and there's a lot more movement. A lot of kids, a lot of parents, a lot of decorations. And so we don't really get a lot of trick or treaters. But this year, we ended up running out of candy. I think we had to basically close up shop at I think 9 o'clock, or just shy of 9 o'clock. Whereas, in years past, we've maybe gone through a bag of candy and had, multiple bags left over. So it's been it was good, like any haunt. When you set it up, you kind of tinker with it throughout the season. I think us setting up for 3 weeks this year instead of two gave me a lot more time to sort of mess around with things, which I think, I mean, again, Halloween, being a haunter and setting up for Halloween I don't even know if it's like an even split between doing it for the enjoyment of others and doing it for yourself. I I just really enjoy Halloween and having the tombstones and stuff out in the yard and just like spending time out there. um, so having that extra time was nice, especially knowing that 3 weeks from then it was all going to be gone, like literally everything gone. Which I guess brings me to the auction, and the auction was good. The auction, I have to say, the people that bid really surprised me. Um, Not the who, but um, it's. I'm trying to say this in a way that doesn't make it sound different than what it actually is. So I'm going to fumble through this a little bit. Um, when we started talking about our move, and I knew that it wasn't going to make logistical sense to try and take all of our stuff, with all the Halloween stuff with us, I knew that I could probably sell stuff and get a few bucks for it. And what other people value my work at uh, was extremely flattering. Um, I will say that everything that was in the auction sold for considerably more than what I would have sold it for if I had to put a price tag on it. I think that's probably the nicest way to say it. That doesn't make it sound uh, ego driven or whatever. Like, this is just stuff that I enjoy doing, and I like the idea of our tombstones and stuff going on to live other lives in other haunts here in California and in other parts of the country as well. But yeah, it's always hard to put a price tag on your work. This is something I have a challenge with when I'm quoting people on commission work and stuff like that too. So, it was to be expected. But damn, you guys really showed up for me. Let me tell you what, like, the funding for the future haunt is secure. Um, and much to my surprise, having people come and pick stuff up on November 1st, I felt really good about it. Um, yes, I'm a minor celeb. I mean, Mrs. VanOaks likes to tease me about it all the time. Um, yeah, when people came to pick up stuff, it was kind of great. There was like people that I knew, people that I had never met before, um, people who have, followed on YouTube or on Instagram, or, are just sort of like in the haunt community here that I just never had the opportunity to meet. Um, and to know that all those people were like interested in the stuff that I've made over the years was like super flattering. And um and I felt great about knowing that these things were going to have some use to people, because otherwise they just like end up in the trash or something. Um so that part was great. And in the process of doing the auction, it also gave me some opportunity to kind of go through the shop and think, what stuff do we want to take with us? Um, there's a lot of odds and ends, things that didn't seem like a good fit for the auction, but that I could see haunters being interested in. So, like our entire audio setup, all of our speakers, all of our extension cords, um, I mean, you name it, we probably have some degree of that kind of stuff. And so on November 1st, when people were coming to pick up the things they had won in the auction, we also had kind of a haunter yard sale. And so it was great to see some other folks too who just came to say hey, and to sort of just blow out the things um that we had gotten good use out of, that are now also going to go work for somebody else. So all that stuff has been um really I thought I was going to be more connected to it in a way, and it would be a bit more emotional for me. um but as a prop maker and a prop collector, I kind of get to a certain point with stuff where, um as Marie Kondo would say, it stops bringing me joy, and then I'm like able to just release it. And in this case, it's not that the tombstones and stuff weren't bringing me enjoyment anymore, but that I think my wife and I are about to embark on a pretty wild adventure. And um and I think that, the idea of kind of starting over and fixing all the problems that I hated about, what our haunt was before, and potentially changing themes, which we've been kicking around some ideas that I think are pretty fun. Um, I think that outweighed any sort of sadness for letting these things go. And so it ended up being really good. It's really interesting to see all of the empty space in our garage that used to be occupied by Halloween stuff. Not to say that the garage is empty by any stretch. There's still plenty of stuff to get rid of, including a 6-foot tall Home Depot animatronic stormtrooper that has been customized by yours truly. So if you're in the market, send me a message. Um, yeah, the whole process was really interesting. I'm glad that we did it, and I'm glad it's over, just because it's logistics and all. And I'm looking forward to what new stuff we can do in the future with 15 years of experience under our belts. Let me pop into chat here for a second and see. I think I've seen some questions coming through here beyond talking about dentistry, which is how we kicked off our Saturday morning. not being at the dentist, but chatting about dentistry in the chat, you really do have to get here early. Let's see. Okay. Would you go with low voltage landscape lighting now? Absolutely. So the RCA jack setup that we used to use ran off of 12 volt, which I think is sort of the baseline for most landscape lighting. And so I would absolutely do that again. Um, I guess I can kind of tease it now. I'm currently working with a manufacturer in China on um, some very small, very affordable haunt lights that will be like VanOaks branded. Um, and they will all run off 12 volt. And hopefully, if things go well, will be DMX controllable. And at a bare minimum, you could put on a RGB um, potentiometer and dial in colors by hand if you needed to. So that's a fun little thing that I'm working on for the new year. Excuse me. But landscape lighting, low voltage lighting, most LED stuff will run off of it. Um, and the fact that you don't electrocute yourself to the same degree with 12 volts is a huge benefit. So I think, yeah, for us, that just always seems to be simple, affordable, less dangerous. Um, yeah, and I think the other thing too is like as you get into using stuff like Arduino or Raspberry Pi or any of those sort of microcontrollers for doing any kind of effects, all of those things run typically off of like 5 volts. And so getting from 12 to 5 is a lot easier than getting from 110 to 5. Um, so low voltage lighting is, I think, easy enough that that most people should consider using it. And I don't know, for somebody who doesn't like doing any level of electrical work, like I have a very healthy fear of all that stuff. Um, this feels way more accessible. So that would be my take on it. And I definitely suggest looking into it if you want to kind of do some of the stuff that I've done, like all the LED candles, the even the little spotlights and stuff like that, just using the like 9 millimeter LED bulbs put into the PVC pipe. I think I have a video about it from a million years ago. Um, those work great. They run off of 12 volt, and you can connect. God, I think we at one point we had like 30 of those lights all running off of one 12 volt power pack, and no problem, like no dip in brightness, nothing. So definitely worth checking out. Let's see. Emerald Queen, I did not see the email that you sent me. Um, if you send me an email through my website, vanoaksprops.com, I think that's probably the best way to go about it. Because I don't know what address you're using or where it's going to. Let's see. I do have some questions from Patreon and from the YouTube community tab, so I'll just jump into those while we're here. Um, okay, so already talked about the auction, so we can go now. How does the move prep go? And what Halloween stuff are you taking with you? Move prep is coming along. It goes in phases. There's some weeks where we feel extremely motivated to get rid of a lot of stuff or to at least take some sort of um, head count as far as like what we think we really want to take with us. And because of how we're planning on moving, we're sort of thinking about this in two ways of like what do we need with us and what could go into storage while we do our house hunting. And for those who are just now hearing about the move, my wife and I are moving to North Carolina early next year, and um, and so it's sort of a split thing. We're planning on selling our place here, and then once we're there, we'll get something short term so that we can house hunt while we're there, rather than try and do it over the internet, which I think neither of us is particularly keen on doing. And so it's sort of a what's the large scale stuff that we want to take with us, and then more of a what would we actually need to live day one, and those things will sort of be separated out into two different collections. So it's a matter of figuring all of that stuff out while also looking at the things that we have and asking the question, do we want to move this? Um, and for me, there's so much like material stuff that I have in the shop that some of it's scraps, some of it's like completely brand new and never been used. But is it worth boxing that stuff up and putting it into a storage pod and then shipping it across country? So that kind of gives you an idea of the types of decisions that we're having to make. And thankfully, even that stuff has not been challenging. There's definitely props where I look at it and I think to myself, like, I'd really like to keep that, but also if I haven't displayed it somewhere yet, or um, I don't necessarily know where it would go in the future, then you just have to ask yourself, would I consider making this thing again? And for me, I think, yeah, probably. Somebody who makes weekly videos, I always need something to make. And because I've been doing it for a little over 5 years now, it it wouldn't be crazy if I repeated myself. I mean, as a matter of fact, I have repeated myself in videos. I mean, I don't know how many tombstone videos I've made, and technique wise, they're all relatively the same. But uh, there's that kind of stuff, like the 6 foot tall stormtrooper. Like clearly not going to take that cross country as much as I like it. Um, but there's all of that kind of stuff that goes into it. And having really only lived for myself, only lived in California, and as a matter of fact, our house now is only 11 miles from where I grew up, and the places that I lived in between my childhood home and my adult home, I think is only a matter of a few miles. Um, so, you know, there hasn't been a ton of moving experience in my lifetime, and paring down has never really been an issue. But when you're going from like a bedroom to a one bedroom apartment to a two-bedroom apartment and then to a home, you just, you know, I'm a goldfish, essentially. I will grow to the size of the space that you give me. Um, but so there's a lot of figuring out what stays and what goes, and then either giving that stuff away or selling stuff that might be worth something, and then at that point, you eventually just have to say, well, This is it. This is what we're taking, and everything else is free to a good home. So, let's see. Oh, what Halloween stuff are you taking with you? So at this point, I have a shoebox worth of small electronics, basically like small controller boards and relays and some LED lights and wires and stuff like that for any kind of um, Arduino-y type project. I have um, our Lights Alive Firefly, which handles the lightning flashes, which I suppose like I could probably build one myself. I mean, I did build one a handful of years ago for a video, but that ended up getting repurposed for something else, and so I suppose I could get rid of that. But I'm keeping it for the time being just because I like it and it's dependable and it's smallish. And then I think the only tombstone that we're taking is my Hallowed Haunting Grounds memorial tombstone. Everything else got sold. Um, so like I don't have any lights, I don't have any audio equipment. I think we have like a bare minimum number of extension cords. Um, yeah, I think I just sort of assumed that I would rebuild everything and not knowing what our future yard will look like or what its requirements are. I felt like taking all of that stuff with us just didn't really make a lot of sense. So, two shoe boxes worth of haunt stuff, basically. So not too bad. I'll tell you, it's a lot less stuff than I thought it would be. Um, but I feel like sometimes, and I'm sure there's other people that feel this way, but like when you start releasing stuff, there's kind of that like endorphin that you're getting where you're like, this actually feels pretty good. Like it's nice to be able to, have some more uh, shelf space, or it's nice to not have my workbench be so cluttered and things like that. And so I think when it really came to it, it was very much like, oh, just push it out and push it out because uh, it seemed like there was momentum to it. And when you have so much stuff that you're looking to get rid of, you can use that momentum to your advantage, um, and just, get it out there. So that was that. Let's see from the chat. Would I consider collaborating with other DIY channels like Evan and Caitlin, Isaac Alexander, or Wicked Makers? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I did a video with Wicked Makers some years ago, um, where we sent each other boxes of stuff, um, Halloweenish stuff, and it was sort of a challenge to see what we could come up with using those parts. Uh, I feel like they did me a little dirty. They're great, and I love them. Um, but I feel like they sent me an extra difficult box of stuff, and yeah, I haven't forgiven them for that one either. They are Jamie and Jay are great, but they definitely did me dirty and sent me all sorts of random baby doll parts and stuff. So anyway, but if we were to like do a more like both of us working on a project in the same space kind of a thing, I absolutely would and look forward to the day when that's an opportunity. Um, Evan and Caitlin, I feel like I love what they do. They have such a high level of chaos, and I don't think I would fit well in the mix with the two of them because I am so opposite of that energy. Um, and I think it would make my low energy look damn near dead. So but yeah, not to say that I would turn them down if they asked, but I feel like it might not. I don't know, it might look a little weird. Let's see, what else we have? From Patreon, one of my patrons asked, "What's the most surprising material or technique you've used in a prop build, and what did that experience teach you about designing props?" I don't know that I've ever really been, like, surprised by a material, um, but technique-wise, the one thing that it's like kind of an endless well that I continue to sort of pull from is, model making. And I don't do small stuff. I don't have the fine motor skills or the patience for doing it, which is saying something because I have crazy patience. Um, but model making techniques do scale up. And most recent example of this is from the Stormtrooper build last week, spraying the armor with hairspray first before applying paint over it, so that you can then reactivate the hairspray and lift paint back off in a like non-destructive way. It's fantastic for aging something and is so cheap, like, you just go to the dollar store and buy whatever the cheapest aerosol hairspray is, uh, and I suppose you could just get even the pump style and maybe spray it through a airbrush, but, model making techniques continue to open a lot of doors, as far as, aging stuff and weathering stuff goes that I think is, um really interesting, and the people that do that, I think, have just like, weirdly feel like they've been doing it in private for so long, and now that there's a platform, they've been really open about sharing all of those secrets, and, I've just been surprised time and time again about how well those things work on a larger scale. Let's see. Do you think you will branch out into more movement type props in the new haunt, or do you prefer doing more subtle, creepy look like you had been doing? Um, I I'd love to work in some more interactivity. I think there's a lot of potential there to create unique experiences for people based on, motion sensors and stuff like that. Those types of things have always felt a little bit out of my reach, but as I've slowly pushed the boat out and kind of gotten a feel for what is possible, and the price to do a lot of that stuff has come down considerably. Um, and I also just think lack of fear of failing has been extremely helpful. And I don't actually remember when it happened, but just sort of like, I don't know. It may have been a conversation I've had with friends time and time again about how, the internet is typically everyone's highlight reel. You rarely see all the, missteps and mistakes and whatever's along the way. And I've kind of always been interested in that part of it, mainly because it a kind of shows you what you should avoid in a way that kind of makes more sense. Like, oh, I was doing this and then the reaction was whatever, versus glossing over it. And I'm guilty of kind of glossing over some of that stuff too. And not because of fear of showing the mistake, but for time. Um but I think just not worrying as much about whether or not something works the first time or has the exact result that I'm looking for. I think doing this more consistently over an extended period of time has given me a certain amount of freedom to play and to take missteps. And oftentimes, those types of things end up leading to a better result than I think what I had intended. So, all of that said, a bit of a tangent, but I think, having some more interactivity, like triggering things, and I don't know that I'm gonna go, full animatronic and stuff like that. A job I've been working on this year that isn't audio animatronic has been a lot more challenging than I had anticipated, and I'm not even the one that's, like, responsible for, um, the actual movements and stuff like that, but I'm, part of a team that is doing that work. And it's challenging even for seasoned professionals. And so, um, the short answer, post long answer is yes. To what degree? Not really sure. Um, I think the other thing that that also is contributing to this is, and I'll try and keep it as concise as possible. Um, the haunted radio is kind of like a prop that's become synonymous with our haunt, and is something that I'd been thinking about for a really long time before actually putting it out in the haunt, because I assumed that it wouldn't make sense to people. Like, I don't know how this makes sense, how it fits. Why would there be a radio in a cemetery? Why would it be playing any of this music, et cetera, et cetera? But then I realized, after people would like send me videos or photos of them making their own version of this prop, and then I think, okay, well, maybe the things that I think about aren't as strange, or maybe it's not as hard to get to a point where you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And so that has just opened up the floodgates for like different ideas of things that I've um would consider putting in our new haunt that I might have not thought about, for fear that it just wouldn't make sense, like thematically, or just, it just wouldn't make sense, period. So, uh, we'll see. Um, but yeah, I definitely think there's going to be some more. I wouldn't say high tech, but like slightly more technical, but still within reach for the average person. Like, I don't code. I don't do, engineering of that degree, and so, you can always kind of expect that the stuff that I do will be accessible. Um, let's see. Would you ever consider looking into a Ben's Works as a potential for a collab partner? I don't know that I'm familiar with Ben's Works. If you have a link for his channel, their channel, drop it in the chat and I will take a look. Have I ever used the rubberized aerosol primer coating on fabric? I have not, but that does sound like an interesting idea conceptually. Annual blooper reel. You know, as I every year at about this time, I end up having to like do a lot of file management, because I like to keep everything that I film in the off chance that I need to repurpose it for something else. And so, the idea of a of a blooper reel is kind of funny, but I think am actively like, unless I have a plan, unless the video feels particularly short that week, if there's something dumb, I'll get rid of it. Like, and honestly, the only bloopers that you would hear from my videos would be me doing my intro and closing, where I end up just tripping over my own words for, an extended period of time. So it, I think it sounds funny, but it's probably not after the first couple times. Let's see. Would you consider a Christmas themed haunt? No. No, I think once you put your haunt out and it's out for a certain amount of time, I think it's for the same reason that I stopped doing Halloween videos come November 1st. It's like if it goes on for too long, then it starts not feeling as special. And so the idea of doing haunt related stuff from like, well, more than 6 months out of the year, I think would be a lot for me. Um, but I do know people that do it, and they're definitely fun to see. It's just not my cup of tea. Let's see. I don't know why I'm scaring a small German town, but I'm sorry, Germany. I didn't mean it. I think I outnumbered on the blooper reel thing. Look, if you guys like, I'll dump files somewhere and you guys can watch me butcher my own words for 45 minutes if you want. But I kid you not. It's literally me being like, hey, gang, welcome back to another video. Something, something, something. Damn it, that wasn't the thing I meant to say. Okay, let's start over. Hey, gang, welcome back to another video. Like, I hope they kind of come across as being a bit more off the cuff, but they're not. If I don't script at least a little something, I'll never finish it. So I have to have some kind of like safety net to prevent me from getting like losing the plot. Um, Also, I don't like being on camera that much. The fact that I talk to you guys once in a blue moon for an hour straight without like people in front of me is so strange to me. But weirdly, like the first 5 minutes is always tough, and then I'll look up and then it'd be almost an hour. It's like, where did that time go? Face my fears. I don't know. So answer me this in chat. Do you prefer the types of videos where you actually see the people making the thing that they are describing? Like, do you like it when they're um, talking to you as they are doing the thing and it's not a voiceover? I have theories about this, and I think it has a lot to do with like parasocial relationships, of people feeling like they want to know the creators of the videos that they watch a bit more, and that by getting sort of a less curated um, explanation of things creates a stronger bond between creator and audience. So I'm curious to know whether you guys feel like those videos resonate more with you versus sort of the voiceless or bodiless voice. I know I'm saying that wrong, but you understand what I'm saying. I mean, seeing it be made, yes, that's always going to happen. But it's the, having somebody talk to you like, oh, today I'm going to make this cup into a thing, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a thing on the cup, versus just watching that happen without seeing the person talk to you while they're doing it. I'm trying to avoid being on camera as much as possible. Depends on how long it takes to make the video. Uh I have a short attention span. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same way. I don't know. When I first started using YouTube videos to learn how to do stuff, I would always look for the video that was the shortest because I assumed that that was going to get me the answer the quickest. And then, no, I'm not going to make cups, Bart. Um, Although you can buy VanOaks branded coffee mugs. I'm sorry, shameless plugs. It is the holiday season, though. Um, and in the end, what I found was that I would look for videos, particularly as it related to like home maintenance and stuff like that. If there was like somebody with gray hair or white hair and the video was under 5 minutes long, I was fairly certain I was going to get my answer and it was going to be a no BS uh, presentation. And so when I started making videos, I kind of thought the same way. Like, I don't want to talk for the sake of talking, unlike I am right now. Um, I want to be able to convey the information so that if it was a thing that you wanted to make, you could spend, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes learning about it, and then be off and making the thing that you want to make. And so that's always kind of been the recipe for my videos. They have gotten longer over the years, but I think I've taken on some larger projects that I think early on I was trying to avoid making videos about. But anyway, definitely getting some interesting answers in the chat. So I appreciate the feedback. Yeah, so Susan Owen in chat said having an intro and a face to go with the voice makes it feel more friendly. And I, prior to being on camera, had some suspicions that that was the case. And then I'd actually read an article that said something to the same effect, where it was like people wanted to know who it was that was talking to them. And so that's why you get to see my lovely face at the beginning and end of every video. Although I will say, and no shade to anybody that does this because I totally understand. But I can see in the analytics, like people are watching, and then when it gets to the time when I do the outro, people stop watching. So, so I get it, but also, um, it is sort of funny to like have that level of information at my fingertips. Let's see. Oh, yes, you guys can't guess my cap color if I don't show my face. Which, by the way, I did like a short run of caps earlier this year, and um, I'm thinking about doing another run of caps, and I'm hoping to get them in more than just black for those folks who are interested in them. So, if you want a VanOaks hat to wear along with me every week. I'm such a shill this morning. I'm sorry. The coffee is finally really kicked in, and, admittedly, I'm feeling a little bit giddy. I don't know. It may also be that we're at the 53-minute mark, and, and I don't know how we got here. It's like, have you ever been driving somewhere and you finally arrive at the location, you kinda wonder, like, "What happened between when I left the house and got here?" It's, like, both amusing and scary at the same time. Cap shipment to Germany? Possibly. I'm trying to see if the same company that I use to do all of my shirts and stuff will also do the embroidered hats. Like this hat, this is a patch that's a iron-on patch, which is um, how the first run of 10 hats was. But the small business that I was using here locally to do the heat setting um, is no longer in business, and so I'm looking for some other options. Which the the shirt company I use would just do the logo embroidered on the hat, and it wouldn't be a patch. So I don't know. I like the patch. I like the differentiation, but we'll see. And honestly, it all comes down to price too. Like I don't like having, super high margins and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. I feel like stuff should be affordable for people that want it. Let's see. Do. Oh, shout out to Creatrix Britt. Hey, Britt, good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Oh, yeah. Okay. So thank you, Tony, for just reminding me. So, so live chat this week. Next week, um, all, well, most, not all, most of my friends from Nerd Summer Camp are going to be coming to Los Angeles because we've all been put to the task to transform a friend's garage, two-car garage, into the interior of the Millennium Falcon. And so we've all kind of been contributing some to it over the years, but we are all going to be meeting up this coming week, for kind of the final push to get this guy's garage, office, man cave, whatever you want to call it, uh, looking like kind of a mix between Screen Accurate and a bit like Galaxy's Edge. And it's it couldn't come at a better time. It's funny to be almost 50, to not really have a ton of friends growing up, and to kind of find your core group of friends, who none of which live nearby, but that every year, and this year twice in a year, will make an effort to get together to hang out for a week. And yeah, I'm super looking forward to seeing the guys. And the hope is that I will be able to document that. Um, I'm going to film a bunch of stuff. I'm not really sure what I'm going to get. And because we'll be working this week, the pretty much the entire week, I don't know how much of that will get turned into a video for next week. So there might be a gap next week, and then the following week would be a video about the Millennium Falcon thing. Um, I don't know. We'll see. It could be anything. Um, might just be a time lapse. I don't know. At this point, it's it's hard to like make a project out of other people's projects, and I still want it to have some level of uh, knowledge sharing and entertainment. I mean, I'm sure it would be entertaining, uh, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. So there may not be a video next week. We'll we'll figure it out as we go. Anyways, we are at 58 minutes. I think this is probably as good a place as any to wrap this up. Thank you all for coming and hanging out with me this morning. I hope you guys have a great weekend and a great holiday. Uh, I always appreciate the support. You guys always show up for me, and I am always amazed every week. So thank you, and hopefully I will see you guys next week with a new video. Now go make something. All right, see you guys.